Okay, so did you know that the average beginner waits 7 whole years before opening their very first brokerage account? I mean, 7 years might not sound like a literal lifetime, but in the investing world, that hesitation, it's incredibly expensive. By waiting, the average beginner actually loses out on an estimated $15,000 in compound growth. That is 15 grand of free money just gone, simply because they didn't start. So that is the immediate financial stake we are dealing with today.
Welcome to this explainer. Our absolute goal today is to completely demystify investing. We're going to cut right through the jargon and build a super straightforward, step-by-step roadmap for building your very first diversified portfolio. And honestly, here's the best news right out of the gate. You really don't need to be rich to begin. Thanks to modern platforms offering zero minimums and fractional shares, you can literally start your wealth-building journey today with just $100 or 100 quid.
Okay, let's dive into this organized step-by-step roadmap that will take you from a paralyzed saver to a confident investor. We'll be covering the cost of waiting, financial preparation, ISAs versus SIPs, diversifying your portfolio, and finally, the mistakes you must avoid.
Let's jump right into Section 1, the cost of waiting, and exactly why right now is the crucial time to begin your wealth-building journey.
A lot of people think leaving money in a regular bank account is playing it safe, right? Well, actually, if your money is in a standard savings account earning something like 0.01%, it is actively being eaten away by an invisible thief, and that thief is inflation. With inflation running near 3%, keeping your cash uninvested guarantees that you lose buying power every single day. Now, contrast that with the stock market. Over the past 20 years, the S&P 500 index has delivered a historical average annual return of 10.8%. So not investing isn't playing it safe at all, it's just locking in a guaranteed loss.
And this brilliantly illustrates the massive power of compound interest. If you start investing $300 a month at age 25, assuming an 8% annual return, you'll hit age 65 with an absolutely incredible $1.2 million. But what if you just wait 10 years and start that exact same $300 a month at age 35? Well, you'd reach age 65 with only $480,000. That 10-year delay literally costs you over $700,000. Time is absolutely your biggest edge in the market, so you have to use it.
Moving on to step 1 of our roadmap, financial preparation, because you have to secure a strong foundation before putting a single penny into the market.
This step really just boils down to 2 mandatory rules. First up, you have to clear your high-interest debt. We're talking about those credit cards carrying 18 to 25% APR. Think about it this way. Clearing a 25% debt is essentially a guaranteed 25% return on your money. No stock market investment is going to consistently beat that. Second, you must build a cash buffer of 3 to 6 months of living expenses in a high-yield savings account. Right now, those are paying around 4.5 to 5 APY. Why is this buffer absolutely crucial? Well, because investments go up and down. If a crisis hits, like, losing your job or a medical emergency, this cash buffer stops you from being forced to sell your investments at a loss just to make rent.
All right, step 2, ISAs versus SIPs. This is where we choose the correct UK tax wrapper.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how we can legally shield our wealth from the taxman. The Individual Savings Account, or ISA, offers ultimate flexibility. You can put in up to £20,000 a year, and any growth, dividends, or withdrawals completely tax-free. Plus, you can access that money whenever you want. The SIP, or self-invested personal pension, on the other hand, trades that flexibility for some really powerful upfront tax relief. If you pay £80 into a SIP, the government tops it up with 20% basic tax relief, turning it into £100 instantly. It's like magic. The catch? That money is locked away until you're at least 55. For a really solid, well-rounded strategy, a lot of investors actually use both, the ISA for medium-term goals and the SIP for their ultimate retirement.
Step 3, diversify your portfolio. So what assets should you actually be buying inside of those accounts?
Look, it is completely normal for beginners to feel some anxiety about market volatility, and a lot of the time their first instinct is to try and pick the best individual stocks to protect themselves. Let me save you a whole lot of stress. Picking individual stocks is just a losing game for most people. The data clearly shows that 90% of retail stock pickers underperform the wider market index by 3 to 5% every single year. And hey, it's not just beginners. Over a 20-year period, 88% of professional fund managers, these are people paid full-time to pick winners, failed to beat the S&P 500 index. You aren't smarter than they are. And honestly, that is perfectly okay.
Because the actual solution here is incredibly simple. Enter the index fund. Instead of trying to find the needle in the haystack, an index fund just buys the whole entire haystack. It's an investment that pools your money to automatically buy a tiny piece of hundreds or even thousands of stocks all at once. If you buy an S&P 500 index fund, you instantly own a sliver of the 500 largest companies in America. This gives you instant diversification, meaning you don't have all your eggs in one basket. Best of all, providers like Vanguard or Fidelity offer these funds with ultra-low fees, sometimes 0 or as low as 0.04%. The fund literally does all the heavy lifting for you.
Finally, Section 5, the mistakes you must avoid, because investing success is usually just about dodging behavioral traps.
Let's rapid-fire these pitfalls so you can steer clear of them. First up, trying to time the market. Waiting around for a quote-unquote dip is a terrible idea. Time in the market always beats timing the market. For example, if you had truly horrible timing and invested $10,000 right before the massive January 2020 pandemic crash, by 2024, that investment had still grown to $42,000. Second mistake, paying high fees above 0.50%. Those fees compound over time and will eat thousands from your future wealth. Stick to those low-cost index funds we talked about. Third, holding way too much cash. As we mentioned, savings account rates rarely outpace inflation over the long haul. And finally, over-concentrating. Having 30% or more of your wealth wrapped up in one single stock isn't investing, guys. It is just gambling.
So, there you have it. We've laid out the roadmap from start to finish. We know the high cost of waiting, the necessary financial prep, the UK tax wrappers, the pure power of index funds, and the main traps you've got to avoid. Remember, the real secret to building wealth isn't some overnight trick. It's consistency, ultra-low fees, and having a 10-year time horizon. You can start right now with just a fractional share or a zero minimum fund. So I want to leave you with this provocative thought to spark some immediate action today. What is your first 100 pounds going into?